Hi, my name is Winston Wilkins from Startup Robot. We help micro and small businesses have better access to capital in the Caribbean. Today we're going to be talking about some of the options available for funding for social impact projects. One of the main things people ask us about these days are around how do you set up a nonprofit. Now, there are a couple of reasons why you would set up a nonprofit, but let's start with what a nonprofit is, and then we'll get into what are some of the common misconceptions around nonprofits, and then we can look at some alternative options to setting up a nonprofit that will still get you what you need in terms of funding for your social impact projects. So let's begin. What is a nonprofit? A nonprofit is an entity that allows for you to accept contributions from a donor, whether it's an individual donor or a corporate or a company, business donor, that when they give you the money, they can record that on their tax return as a donation that they can deduct from their tax bill. So if they owe $100 in tax, but they gave you a $50 donation, they can deduct $50 from their tax bill, and you are able to use that $50 that they've given you to do something that you're authorized to do as a registered nonprofit. Now, if you are a regular business, that would be the equivalent of you getting money from an investor to do something in the business to generate a profit. But not all businesses or entities are profit driven. So you'll have a situation where you want a return on investment, but it's not in cash. It is maybe to reduce crime in your community, or it might be to make sure that the children in your community have a school that they can get a quality education at. And therefore, instead of paying taxes to the government, it might be more efficient to give that donation to a nonprofit whose mandate it is to make sure that early childhood is improved in that community. This nonprofit entity exists because there is the person who has money that wants more than a return. They want to see something that makes their world or the community around them a better place. You see this a lot when persons from overseas send money to projects in Jamaica because they've gotten to migrate to another country, they're working better money in the US or the UK, but they have family that they've left in Jamaica, and they wonder about their safety, they wonder about their access to a good education, they wonder about just the livelihood of the persons that they left in that community. From the government side, the government may collect taxes from its citizens. That money is used for improving certain social issues within the community. Crime and education are once again a common reason for spending the public money to improve an issue. But everybody knows that government has to spend money on a particular issue, and you might have expertise that offers solutions to those issues, but because they know it's government, they may overcharge the government. The government may have expertise that doesn't know how to apply, let's say, new technology or efficient scrapping methods of implementing solutions to address these issues. So the tax dollar doesn't go as far as the non-profit dollar would. So these non-profits, these charities exist to provide alternatives to the government to address social issues in a country. And the donors are able to invest this money in the improvement of the community when a cash return on their investment is not the primary goal. Some of the biggest misconceptions about nonprofits is that I can just set up a nonprofit, start doing a project, and people can just give me the money to, let's say, fix a road or build a basic school, and that money would just be tax deductible from the donor. Or another misconception is I might have expertise in fixing roads or building basic schools. I can just set up a nonprofit and people will just pay me to do it, and I don't have to do another business. I can just do this full time and people will just pay me to do it. This creates an environment for corruption if not regulated properly. I can just decide that I'm going to put some of my money, somebody else puts some of their money, and we just don't pay taxes, and then we just run off with the money and not build a basic school or fix the road. And so you end up with another problem on top of the social issues that exist. So there are frameworks or regulations that a government will put in place to make sure that a non-profit operates in a way that is transparent, so that somebody knows when they put their money into that non-profit, the non-profit spends the money in the way that they said they would. There is a registration process that is involved in setting up this non-profit. A misconception is that it's as easy as setting up a company. It's not. There are 3 agencies in Jamaica that have to be involved in the registration of a non-profit. There's a company's office where you register a company that is limited by guarantee. There is the registration of that company limited by guarantee with the Department of Charities, Cooperatives and Friendly Societies. Then after you've gotten that approval, there is the registration with the tax office as a tax exempt entity, or that's where you get the non-profit status. Once the tax office gives you that non-profit status, you can then go back to the company's office and say, I now have this non-profit status, and so now I can remove the limited off of the company, and now I have true non-profit status where I am no longer limited by guarantee. I am registered as a non-profit, and so I can accept contributions locally, but I cannot accept contributions from overseas unless I am a non-profit in that country as well, which is that most important misconception. You cannot get a tax exempt donation to a non-profit if you're in the US and making that donation to a foreign non-profit. You can only do that if you're in the US, with a US non-profit. Some drawbacks to having a nonprofit once you've gone through the exercise of putting a nonprofit together is one, being limited to the country or the jurisdiction in which that nonprofit is registered. So if I'm a Jamaican nonprofit, I can only accept donations from within Jamaica. If I'm a US nonprofit, I can only accept donations from US donors. That's a drawback if you have a list of donors but you've registered your nonprofit in the wrong place. Another drawback is regulations or the auditing process for a nonprofit is very strenuous. You have to do audits every 2 years and submit to the tax office to state that your business operation is still operating within the mandate that you initially registered. That mandate is documented at the company's office in the form of objects and powers, where the organization has an objective and then it assigns itself powers to meet those objectives, and that cannot change unless it is registered with the company's office and the Department of Charities and Friendly Societies. The other drawback is in the registration process. When you register with the company's office, the Department of Charities and Cooperatives and Friendly Societies must approve the objects and powers before it can move to the next step, which is the tax office. If they don't approve of the objects and powers, then you have to file a change of objects and powers or change of articles at the company's office and pay for that change each time until Department of Charities and Friendly Societies approves. This can take anywhere between 1 year to as much as 5 years in my experience. So there are some significant drawbacks before you can start to collect money for projects. So there are some alternatives to setting up a nonprofit if the intent is to raise funds for social impact projects. One of those alternatives, and this is a common solution, is to set up a regular company, whether it be a limited liability company or a sole trader, so a for-profit business, but you're offering your services to an existing charity. So let's say you have the skill sets to build schools, so you're good at construction, but you run a for-profit business. You can present the opportunity to a charity to say, I am willing to donate a certain amount of our time and our resources, maybe some blocks, some steel, some cement, towards building a school. The charity can then go around and seek and promote additional nonprofit funding from their network to build the school. As long as that charity has school building within their mandate, then they're allowed to raise money along with you to address the social impact objective. Another option would be to identify a fiscal sponsor where you promote the raising of money to a network of donors, but you channel the money through that fiscal sponsor. In Jamaica, we like to partner with the United Way of Jamaica. They're one of the largest conduits for donor funds within the Caribbean, and they have a network of dozens of charities that fit into the mandates of various types of projects. In the United States, there are lists of hundreds, if not thousands, of charities that already fit mandates across the different states in the US. And you can approach them as a fiscal sponsor as a for-profit, while you apply for your own nonprofit status to partner with on projects. Both yourself and the fiscal sponsor can promote this project and raise funds, and it is channeled through that fiscal sponsor to the project that you are working on. There might be rules on how you as the entrepreneur or your business can be paid, but generally the charity can determine who is the implementing partner on the project, so that you can access the funds to do the implementation, either at some discount or with your company or yourself volunteering as the implementer of this project. The third alternative that I'm aware of is around accessing development grants. So there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were formulated by the United Nations pre the year 2000. It was called the Millennium Development Goals at the time, and now it's rebranded as the Sustainable Development Goals. And these 17 goals, you can Google this, but it covers a wide range of social impact topics that projects can fall under. There are other multilaterals, meaning other agencies that collect donor money, usually from countries, that reassign this money to either charities or non-profits, as long as they have the capacity to implement solutions that address these sustainable development goals. And that's a way that non-profits can apply for this funding to do these projects. They usually take the form of grants, and you can apply for these grants and go through a process of being approved for the implementation of these solutions for these social impact projects. To learn more about any of these topics, you can send us a comment or find our email in the description of this video. And if you found this information useful, you can like, share, and subscribe. Once again, I'm Winston Wilkins from Startup Robot, and we help Caribbean entrepreneurs find easier access to capital. Thank you very much.